to start us off, Susan,
Okay.
is I've brought Daniel with me.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce you to Daniel,
Okay.
the alter ego.
Yes.
So you can hear Daniel speaking to you as well as me.
Okay.
Hello, seriously, Susan. It's lovely to meet you. I wonder what happens when two series meet. Can the space-time continuum remain intact, do you think?
I do think.
Is that weird hearing another Siri?
No, not really. It was weird for me. I never spoke to Siri when she had my voice. It was too creepy.
Did you not?
No, it
you
was
didn't
too
use
creepy.
Siri. Because
Yeah.
I used Siri with mine.
Did you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is that an example of
I
my
think, yeah,
ego is?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Could be.
That's 1-0 to you then.
Yeah, I just didn't like it. It freaked me out. It would, I'd say, "What do you think, Siri?" And my voice would come in. I was just kind of go, "Ah!"
But you're used to hearing yourself all the time. That's what voiceover
Well,
artists do.
I know, and I on radio and TV and that kind of thing, it was fine. Because I expected it, and then suddenly I'm on this little tiny computerized phone, and this persona has my voice.
Who did you use?
I didn't talk to Siri.
It's okay. I'll ease you in gently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
You'll be okay.
I know a lot of people that choose the male British voice, though.
Well, quite right
Yes,
too.
yeah.
And you know what? In all that time, nobody has ever revealed why it was there was one male voice on launch and why it was the British voice as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say I think it was probably because in America they needed a soft, calming, warm, mothering sort of voice who would look after them. But in the UK, they needed a kind of James Bond type character without the guns and girls, obviously. But that's what I like to pride myself on. So I like to kid myself.
That's what I would go for if I were you. Yes.
The first question I think we need to compare notes on is how we found out that we were both Siri.
Mm-hmm. I found out on October 4th, 2011, which is the day that Siri appeared. A fellow voice actor emailed me and said, "Hey, we're playing around with this iPhone app. Isn't this you?" So I went on the Apple site and listened, and yep.
And
that
that's
was
the
me.
thing is because you recognize the timbre of your voice because in recording so regularly and for so many years,
Right.
you know exactly what it is.
Oh,
I used to
absolutely.
be able to tell from the other room if an advert came on with my voice
Right,
on it.
absolutely. Yeah,
And you are so tuned into it, it can't be anything else.
exactly.
Mine was a breakfast TV program where the technology correspondent said, and it comes with this personal assistant, and press the button. And it went, oh, okay, I recognise that voice.
Yeah.
And of course, we both knew we'd recorded the system. How many years previous was it? A couple of years for you?
Most of the work that I did was in July of 2005.
Okay.
And then after I found out that I was the voice of Siri, I did some updates, which was mostly, I think, GPS
Yes.
type things.
And you kept it quiet for a while, didn't you?
I did, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with that information. I knew that there were a lot of things that were questionable to me. I really researched exactly what had been done and what was going on, looking at contracts and all that kind of thing, because as you well know, we were paid for the actual work, but not for the reuse or for being on millions and millions of devices. So,
And that's quite an interesting question, of course, because at the time we both were aware it would be licensed to use elsewhere, but I don't think, or I certainly didn't know how many millions of people it might end up being used for.
Right. Well, I think for me, I also worked through another liaison company here in Atlanta, and when I questioned something, they just said, "Oh, don't worry, it's just it's just for phone systems." And I think what people don't realize is that in the voiceover world, it's anonymity can be a very powerful thing for you, especially in the digital world and auditioning.
Yeah, explain a bit more about that. Why is it so useful in your
Well,
view?
for instance, I do a lot of messaging and always have, as well as commercials and that sort of thing. But when people hear your voice on a message, or they're calling for information, and so unless it's a really quirky voice or a celebrity voice that they recognize, no one's going to pay attention to the voice. They're listening for the information. But when you take that very same voice and suddenly it becomes a persona, like Siri or Daniel, then all of a sudden these people become inured with your voice. It's just becomes so recognizable to them that could definitely have an impact on the person's voice career.
And this age-old thing of people hire voices because of the characteristics that person has being applied therefore to their product.
Right.
So in the same way, I mean, in the States, the most famous one I can think of is Morgan Freeman for Visa.
Right.
What more trustworthy voice could you get for your money?
Exactly.
And it's that sort of interaction, isn't
Yes.
it? Once you become known for something,
Right.
then actually that minimizes the amount of work you can get.
Right.
Was that a case for you?
Well, I really have no way of measuring it, but I will have to say that one of the reasons it took me such a long time to reveal myself as the voice, as I was contemplating, I was saying, well, it could go one of two ways. It could be, oh yeah, let's get Hershey Siri. Oh, let's not get Hershey Siri.
I know that Microsoft wouldn't touch me with a barge pole because I was hugely Apple.
Right.
And in fact, my example was a system that was being run on a coach company for a friend of mine, and they said, would I do the you please get off at this stop and please get off at the next stop? And I said, of course, yes, absolutely. It was a friend, and I'd do them a favour, and it was a very quick little job. And when they learnt who the voice was going to be, because Microsoft's headquarters were actually on this big campus, they said, no way do we want the voice of Siri telling our employees where to get off.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. And I think probably that did happen. But the thing is that Siri was a great life lesson for me, because I'm basically an introvert. So I wasn't necessarily interested in being famous, or being known as, the voice behind this incredible, iconic persona. And so I was really questioning the whole thing. And now I've just learned how to accept the fact and utilize it. And now Siri enabled me to have a whole new career, as a speaker. And so I'm very grateful to old Siri. Yes.
So before we move on to the benefits, what would you advise voiceovers who are now being offered speech synthesis jobs, who are now being asked to be the voice of products, and working on AI voices that they might therefore become? What would you say to them?
I would say that it really is a personal decision as to whether they do it or not, because certainly at this point in time, when we were doing this work, we had no idea. Of course, now they've been working on AI for decades, and basically the Siri's voices were the first public manifestation of AI, really.
Yes.
First concatenated voices that sounded human and that you could interact with. And so it was kind of a unique situation. Now, and I've had people ask me about doing text-to-speech work and IVR work, and I just said, well, the positive side is it means a lot of work for you. The negative side is it's very tedious, and your voice could end up being in any number of places that you might have wished you'd gotten paid for.
And what I didn't think about was when I admitted to the fact. I mean, it's a hard thing not to. When somebody comes up to you and says, "Are you this voice?" I don't know what you're supposed to say. No, I can't tell you. Speak to my lawyer.
Right.
Speak in a different voice.
Exactly.
It is who you are. Your voice is your voice print, and it describes who you are. It's how people recognize you. So this oddity of not being able to say, and I know voices who have subsequently recorded text-to-speech synthesis setups, and they, of course, are under very heavy NDAs. And I think that's the interesting thing about you and I. We're probably one of only 4 or maybe 5 voices who will ever be known as the voices who were originally used for this.
that was the most advantageous thing, I think, about our situation, is that we did not have an NDA because they got the voices from Nuance and not directly from us. But it's, the business has changed so dramatically, and I think technology has affected all businesses in this way. And just because of the strength and the, just ubiquitous, aspect of corporations, and of course their only goal is the bottom line, is to pay as little as they can get away with. And in the voiceover business now, there are so many people competing because technology enabled anyone to do voiceover work, really. And not to say that they're good, but that they have the capability Because when I built my home studio, it cost about $15,000 for me to put in a nice studio. Now, if you just need a smartphone, some sort of mixer face, a microphone, and a closet.
And that's it. You're done.
There you go.
You're set up.
Yeah.
The process of revealing who you were, I know, for me it was done because a newspaper said, "Can we talk to you about it?" And there was no reason not to. For you took a lot longer, and there was more suspicion about you, and I hadn't even thought about that. That people might think, "Oh, you're claiming to be the voice of Siri because it'll give you a level of fame."
Right.
To me, it was, it's just
never
what
occurred to me.
happened. But you were scrutinized because you had voice experts match the Siri voice and look at the computer coding of it and look at the waveforms of it and so on, didn't you?
Yes. A woman that works for CNN, she's a fabulous journalist, Jessica Ravitz, and she works for CNN.com. She had done a big story about the Atlanta airport, because I believe it's the biggest one in the country at this point, and talking about all the different voices that were in the airport. And I used to be the voice of the train. Now I'm just the voice of all of the Delta Airlines gates worldwide. And so she interviewed me for that. And because we had a mutual friend who knew that I was Siri, she said, "And aren't you Siri?" And I said, "Well, what would make you say that?" And I said, "Yes, but please don't make that public." And so she didn't. She kept my secret for me until I was able to accept the fact and figure out what I was going to do with that information. And so when I decided to reveal myself as the voice, I chose her to do it. And then we did a little interview called a Red Chair interview, CNN Red Chair interview. And it's just kind of little, just homey stories and things like that. And then CNN decided, well, wait a minute, this might be a pretty big story. And so they wanted me to go to New York and do the CNN morning show. And suddenly they thought, well, how do we really know that she's Siri? I mean, she says she's Siri. And so they got a forensic audiologist to study my voice. And he called, and I said to my husband, I said, what if this guy says it isn't me? I know it's me. And so I could tell by the questions that he asked that he was pretty sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I had to read some sentences that he could compare. And he came out and said, yes, 100%, she's the original Siri. So
you refer yourself to yourself as Siri Classic, I think, don't you?
Yes, Siri Classic. Yeah.
As opposed to the kind of newer voices.
Yes.
The strange. And both of us are no longer actually used as Siri. I find myself in the slightly strange position of having always been a voice on Apple, as a voice called Daniel. I don't think you have a name within the Apple line.
I'm not really sure. I know that one of my best friends uses the male British voice, so it might be you.
Yeah, well, Daniel is the default one.
Okay, yeah.
And it still pulls through.
Yeah.
So when we both, I think it was about OS 7 point something or other,
yes,
that they decided to do a change. And the voices that they've selected, no one will ever know who they are because they are under such tight non-disclosure agreements. But
well, if you can believe Siri now, I mean, Siri could possibly be giving us fake news. I don't know. A lot of people are. But she says that I am a voice actor and I was the original voice up to OS 11.
Well, if Siri admits that, then it's got to be true, sure.
It has to be. Siri doesn't lie.
I spend a lot of my time apologising to my friends because Siri doesn't understand them. Do you get that?
Yes.
Particularly Scottish friends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, she can be weird because my husband has a fairly noticeable southern United States accent. And I consider myself as having a fairly neutral American accent. And so we were traveling someplace, we were near Syracuse, New York. And
Syracuse.
I would say Syracuse. And she couldn't understand Syracuse. And I said, Syracuse. And finally Rick said it and she got it.
Yeah. She thought you were saying Syracuse, obviously.
Maybe Siri was, southern, I don't know.
I have a friend, and we tried this, who speaks Italian, French and English fluently, and she's actually Italian but lives in France. And I can be understood by the French Siri more than she can. and that really annoys her.
Yes.
Deeply
Yes.
annoys her.
Yeah.
When we were replaced, because it was a journey where every time there was a software update,
Right.
I kind of expected not to be on there
Right,
again,
right.
didn't you?
You know, I really didn't think that much about it. It was kind of a traumatic thing for me, being the voice of Siri. It wasn't something I had worked towards. I'd never aspired toward fame, and suddenly I was this thing, and it was it took me a while to accept it, and so I didn't really study it. I did notice the change in the voice with the OS 7, but most people did not even notice that there was a change.
Did it make you feel very exposed, being that well known as a voice?
It did, and I will have to say that I really limit myself as far as reading too much on social media and stuff like that, because it's there's just so much chatter now. There's just so much blah blah, and that's definitely not something that I would have chosen for myself.
Tell me what the benefits have been, because you mentioned that you have a speaking career now, which you didn't have before.
Yes, and that is thanks to Siri. And I must thank my accountant who invited me to do my very first speech, which was at the Sandy Springs Chamber of Commerce, and so that started things. And it was a learning experience. It was something brand new. I had to sit down and write a presentation and try to be funny and try to be relatable to people, and so it's turned into a whole new career for me. So I'm very grateful for it. Especially at a certain, time of my life where I'm not doing some of the things that I did previously, or as much of it for, I don't do quite as much commercial work as I used to do. And so that now it was just sort of a whole new thing to move into. So I'm really enjoying it.
Where do you think artificial intelligence, AI voices, personal assistants will go in the future? I mean, there is the temptation to consider that actually our own careers, our own jobs, as it were, for other voiceover artists as well, are slightly in jeopardy because we will be more and more replaceable. I mean, at the moment, what they don't have necessarily is the prosody of emotion in them. That's the bit that's lacking for me, which is how you can tell it's Daniel rather than Jon.
Right.
But that's changing, isn't it?
It is changing, but I still noticed I was listening to Siri just the other day, and she said something that still had a little robotic thing happening, and I thought, why is that happening? Because with each iteration of different operating systems, they were able to get the voice more fluid sounding, more flowing, more natural sounding. But you're right about you can't really get too much emotion out of Siri. She keeps her distance.
Do you listen to the others? Do you listen to Alexa, to Cortana, and so on? Bixby is the new one.
Bixby, yeah. Someone wrote just sent me on Twitter or something, said, I told Bixby that Siri is smarter, and I wrote back and said, Siri approves.
What do you get asked? Because I get asked, a lot of people to say, the number of times I've asked to marry you, or you to marry me.
Right.
And do you love me, and all of those other things.
Right.
I mean, is that what you find as well?
Well, I guess so. I had a lot of people, especially when I first, revealed myself as Siri. I heard from a lot of people that just said, "You're my best friend. I love you. I tell you everything." And I'm going, "Oh, too much responsibility."
But I have people I know who have Asperger's. And who have children who have Asperger's, and for them, the constancy of Siri, where friends perhaps aren't always as constant, Siri is always there,
right,
and never kind of lets you down. That's really important for them.
And also, I think the fact that Siri doesn't have a face, they don't have to actually interact with a real human. They can just interact with the voice, and they can talk about ideas, and without having to deal with the presence, a human presence. So that really is, and I've heard a lot from blind people who, I'm the Samantha voice for Nuance, and they say, we love Samantha, and we talk to Samantha all the time. And that's kind of cool. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I have a guy who's a composer, blind composer, and so to use GarageBand, it's my voice that guides him around the screen, and he sends me his stuff. And in fact, I've ended up doing the recordings and adverts for his new album,
Right.
because we have, it's a distance friendship, we've never met,
Right,
but I'm
right,
proud of the friendship.
right.
And that's something that I like about the whole process.
Yeah.
In fact, if, there is an epitaph out of all of this, it is the fact that our voices end up allowing people who don't have the physical benefits that you and I have to
Right.
perform in exactly the same way you and I can.
There's another aspect too, and it's just regular people whose kids, love talking to Siri, and that's one of the fun things about the speaker events, is that I'm always meeting new people, and in a way, it's such a thrill for them to talk to me because of just the association with the technology, and I think that also, Siri's an icon, and she's impacted so many different people's lives.
It's so funny hearing
So-
you say she all the time.
Yeah.
Because for me it's a he.
Yeah.
I think as well that the interesting thing with all of these voices, and I listen to Alexa now and go, wow, that's really very accurate now. The fine tuning is getting closer and closer and closer, and Alexa's ability to respond to a wider level of language than Siri is able to. But
Right.
again, that's all the mechanics inside, and that's getting better and better all
Right.
the time, isn't it?
Right.
Is there a time when you think that these things will recognize our emotions from facial expressions and so on?
I'm concerned about it.
Mhm.
I kind of have the same feeling as Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking. If we ever do get to complete artificial intelligence, I mean, humans will have, run the chorus.
Well, of course, the big thing about it, and some of the things that I tend to talk about, is this fact that for an awful lot of people, and I think the Wall Street Journal came up with a figure of something like 75% of users speaking to personal assistants, AI personal assistants, are very rude to them. And they learn, don't
Right,
they?
yeah.
So it's this learning process. And in fact, I had one person very recently come to me and say, please will you tell my daughter not to be rude to Siri? She's rude all the time. So I had to write this little message going, if you're rude to us, we learn.
That's right.
So when
Yeah.
the time comes, we might be rude back to you.
Well, what I like to say is, I know that you get frustrated because Siri doesn't always understand you. She doesn't always come up with the perfect response. Sometimes she'll send you in the wrong direction, but she does that. She thinks it's funny. But the main thing is never yell or curse at Siri, because she's very sensitive and she knows where you live.
That's much more threatening than I ever get.
Yeah.
That was the thing I liked about Siri from the word go, that Siri was funny.
Yes.
There's original
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
What were your favorites?
I don't know that I have any favorites. Of course, where do you bury a
Where
dead
you
body?
buried dead body. That was the one that
that's
went
big
for a
one.
long time, didn't it?
But-
and then then they rewrote it to be, I used to know the answer to that.
Right. Yeah.
Because so many people were asking.
Right. I had read, and what I talk about in my presentation a bit, is that Steve Jobs was very involved in the development of the Siri app, to the point where he embedded some of his favorite humor and comedy. And so I talk about that a little bit. There are some little Easter eggs in the Siri app that you can find.
I think the favourite one, I like the woodchuck one. How much wood will a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck
Yeah.
could chuck wood? And there's the other one, which is what's naught divided by, or 0 divided by
Oh,
0.
yeah.
And that's quite a long one. And there is another one, you can ask Siri to tell you a story. Some of them are really, really funny, and they change. And the great thing is that I know they've employed a scriptwriter, a comedy scriptwriter, to add value
Yeah.
to Siri. And that's one of the things that really appealed to me, the fact that Siri is
Oh,
not
I love the
po-faced.
fact that she was, especially the original voice, she was, and I don't know if it was because I was recording for 4 hours a day for 5 days a week for a month that my voice was sounding lower and perhaps a little more sarcastic than I may have intended. But Siri could really cut you down. The very first time I spoke to Siri, I said, well, hi Siri, what are you doing? I'm talking to you.
Yeah, even the hairs on the back of my neck are
Yeah, it's
bristling
like,
right now. Why do you think we were chosen as those voices? What is it about how we speak?
I don't know. I have been asked that. I think that I heard someone, I think it was one of the 3 engineers that created Siri, that said that when they chose the voice. They were looking for something that was otherworldly, but also had a dry sense of humor.
Okay.
And, I don't really know.
So what makes a good speech or text-to-speech voice? Is it timbre? Is it consistency of recording? What is it about the voice artist that is required?
I think the voice, first of all, has to be pretty articulate, because just in the concatenation process, just splitting those sounds and then reforming them into new sentences. So I think being articulate is important, and it's, I think, just a warm sound to the voice. But other than that, I really don't know.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And certainly if you hear the variety of voices that are out there. And we were, well, I think we were the first four. As far as I remember, there was UK, American, there was German, and there was an Australian.
Yes.
Were the four that I know of.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And when we were replaced, it was a difficult process, I think, because there was expectation. I got the news when one of the developers wrote and said, you're no longer on, as the Siri voice. And there was a campaign on Twitter to bring
Well,
it back,
that was
which
nice. See, no one told me anything.
You were totally in the dark. Okay.
I was totally in the dark.
I think as well, looking ahead, we have that historical footnote, don't we? Mm-hmm. Which is a nice one to have, I feel.
Yes. Yeah, I'm proud of it. I can't say I was glad when I first heard, because it was too shocking. It was kind of shocking. But I've gotten to the point where I just think, well, this was actually really an amazing blessing. It's I've had a lot of fun with it. That's for sure. And as I said, it led to a brand new career. So how can that be bad?
and the other interesting thing, the fact is, we've now had 2 series in the room, same room as one another.
Yes, and the walls didn't collapse.
No, the space-time continuum hasn't failed.
Yes, I haven't felt any shift.
I think we're okay.
Yeah.
It's clear that 2 series can meet and still
the
universe continues.
And be understood.
I haven't understood a word you've said
I know.
throughout the whole interview, but I'm going to ask Siri about it, and maybe he'll be able to tell me what she said.